Do you want to know what it's like to climb a mountain with no ropes? You ever wondered, what is it like to be a professional wrestler? Do you want to know what it feels like to be a bear? Like an actual bear? Like a... Oh no, that is the wrong type of bear. To me, documentaries are the most powerful type of film there is. They're made to wow you and inform you and entertain you. But the one thing that they're really good at, they lie to you. They do it all the time. Documentaries are just one big lie. And I want to tell you about it. So let's go. Documentaries are an art form that have been used to depict authentic reality since their inception. Or more like what the person that makes them want you to think is an authentic reality. It's whatever they feel like making, honestly. Documentary's origin in film is generally considered to be the 1922 silent film Nanook of the North by American filmmaker Robert Flattery. Flahetery. I'm just going to call him Robert. It was a completely new form of film that documented the life of an Inuit man named Nanook, which translates to polar bear, and his family and how they live in northern Canada. It shows how they travel, live, fish, just a day in their general day-to-day life. By the way, am I the only one who thinks those pants are cool? I would rock one of those in a second. Is that controversial? It even showed how they build an igloo. Oh wow, hey, that looks like a lot of fun. So yeah, the film was really revolutionary at the time for showing a real family and their real life. Except it wasn't. I just lied to you. How does that feel? Not great, right? Well, I hope you like it, because that's what the film's doing. This film was later found to be heavily staged. The family depicted, guess what? It's not even a real family. The igloo they built, guess what? It was actually only half an igloo so that the camera can still let light in from the other side, so half a lie. The pants, guess what? Well, they were real, but all the clothes in the film were provided by a French fur company that actually sponsored the film. Rebellion. Actually, that might actually be how you pronounce that. The father's name wasn't even Nanook. For the sake of me not embarrassing myself, I'm gonna not even try to pronounce this and let Google do it for me.
Alakarialak.
You hear that?
Alakarialak.
The director renamed him to Nanook so that it would actually be more marketable to wide audiences at the time.
Alakarialak.
Was also a collaborator in this film, so he was actually in on this the entire time. Now, in the 1930s and 40s, the power of documentaries was used by world governments to educate their public on national issues that they wanted them to know about. These are known as propaganda films, and I'll go ahead and give you one guess as to which government popularized that one. Here's a hint. It rhymes with the Yahtzee. Now, the Germans weren't the only ones who saw this as an asset to assist in their political machine. Countries like Britain used them.
No. Come. You mustn't throw away old dusters. They can be made into gun wadding, or maps for tanks or bomber crews. Any old string oddments, sheets, pillar slips, overalls. No, don't forget. Good morning.
Well, I didn't know.
Salvage is important. Keep it up.
Even the United States used them.
We have steel to make shells indefinitely. Japan has not. Just one of our plane factories will produce more bombers than the total known Japanese output of these heavy weapons.
Peggy didn't deserve you, Cap. I would have taken care of America's ass. Relax, I know how to salute. I would have win. Propaganda films were used throughout the war. They helped further a nation's wartime agenda. Now, with the power of influence and forced perspective in documentaries were discovered and used by the governments to control a certain narrative, that all changed in the 1960s. The 60s, where there was one good summer of love and peace, and a bunch of other summers filled with violence and political turmoil. But hey, at least we landed on the moon.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
From 1950 to 1966, the percentage of Americans who owned a television skyrocketed, going from 9% to 93%. Channels like National Education Television, which later became PBS, aired documentaries aimed toward educating the public about certain topics. Television became an important outlet for documentary filmmaking, putting more of an emphasis on journalistic programs. For example, during the Vietnam War, news outlets were able to document the true happenings of war. For the first time, this gave the power of documentaries from the government to the public. As time went on, popularity and the growing consumer market of home video cameras and later digital cameras gave the power to the individuals. Because of that, anybody can create documentaries now and use that power to control their own narrative. And with the access and the ease for practically anyone to create them, the number of documentaries skyrocketed. According to market data from National Information Services in 2021, the number of documentaries in theaters has tripled since 2000. How old were you in 2000? I was 1. With so many documentaries being available, it's now easier than ever for anyone to make a documentary with their own narrative attached and impact society, or at least try to. I think the biggest and honestly most perfect example of this is also one of the biggest documentaries that's ever been released, and I'm pretty positive you've heard about it. It's Super Size Me from 2004. This film depicts Morgan Spurlock, who decides to eat McDonald's for every meal of the day for 30 straight days to show the dangers of it. At the end of the 30 days, he has gained 24.5 pounds or 11.1 kilograms and had an overall decline in his health. Nowadays, I think it's pretty easy to assume that everybody understands and knows the dangers of eating fast food for every single meal, let alone for a month straight. And yeah, they knew that in 2004, but you gotta realize the reason that most of us know this today is because of this film. You really have to understand the giant impact this had on society at the time. And still to this day, honestly. Chances are you had a health class in school, and I'm betting 8 out of 10 of you probably saw this in that class. I mean, you could honestly, if you really wanted to, probably trace this film back to the beginning of a health movement in young Americans today. If you still don't really understand the impact of this film, in 90 minutes, one guy made one of the biggest companies in the world shit themselves. They changed the way they advertised and presented themselves because of him. So yeah, this film was pretty impactful on modern society. But do you remember the part about individuals now being able to create their own narratives and release it to the public? Well, guess what? Turns out the decline in his health wasn't exactly just caused by eating Mickey D's for 30 straight days. He later admitted to struggling with alcoholism for many years, including during the production of this film. And because of that, the authenticity of the decline in his health from just his diet alone is in question. I think there's another great example of an individual being able to use the power of documentaries to create their own narrative, and I'm gonna be honest with you, this is actually one of my favorite documentaries of all time. Exit to the Gift Shop from 2010, and it's by Banksy, believe it or not. I genuinely love this film, and I remember seeing it for the first time as a kid, so researching all this and being able to watch it again, it was awesome. I really do love this movie, and I encourage you to check it out. It's also on YouTube, and the link is in the description. Shh, don't tell anybody. I don't think I'm supposed to know that. This film depicts Terry Goetta, a man who follows around street artists and documents them on his camera, making what they think is an eventual documentary. He ends up making a lot of connections and eventually uses those connections to hang out with and film the legendary street artist Banksy. He eventually actually never even did anything with this footage. He showed a copy of his documentary to Banksy, and apparently it was just really bad. And by the suggestion of Banksy himself, he ended up going back home and trying art for himself. He ended up creating his own street art persona named Mr. Brainwash and put his art up around Los Angeles. Now, if you're not like me, you probably don't have hearing loss, and you probably heard that I didn't say his own style. Well, that's honestly because he really didn't have his own style. When you watch the documentary, you'll notice that all the art he puts around Los Angeles suspiciously looks like all of the other art of the artists that he's been following this entire time. And it's even so prevalent that Banksy himself mentions this in the film.
Most artists spend years perfecting their craft, finding their style, and Terry seemed to miss out on all those bits. I mean, there's no one quite like Terry, really, even if his art does look quite a lot like everyone else's.
Eventually leading to a huge gallery show showing off his art, which is kind of ironic because Banksy says in the film that he's very against this, but he ends up doing it anyways. Believe it or not, he ended up actually doing the cover art for one of the biggest artists in the world. He ended up doing the cover art for Madonna's Celebration album. I actually remember seeing this album as a kid, and I never made the connection because I had no idea who Mr. Brainwash was. So maybe I was just too young to understand, and it wasn't until now as an adult that I realized that he kind of just scammed his way to the top, but I guess fake it till you make it, man. Look what I'm doing. Now, this film is actually believed to be a fake documentary or a mockumentary, similar to the style of shows like The Office or Parks and Rec. Those who argue that basically say that the film itself is an art piece by Banksy, and he basically kind of uses it to make fun of the power of documentaries and being able to create your own false narrative. Since the beginning, documentaries have been used to depict a reality. They have been used to inform and educate and to persuade. The power of documentaries cannot be argued, however, the narratives of them can. As someone who frequently enjoys documentaries, I watch them and I love them, but I understand that they're made by people. And like people, they're full of biases and opinions. Some documentaries can change the world for the better and help society grow, and others can probably damage it. But nonetheless, documentaries are an art form that are going to stand the test of time forever. But then again, that's just my opinion and my own narrative. Get it? It's meta. The whole video is about a narrative, and I'm bringing it back to this point. Please use the comment section below and share your favorite documentaries with me. I need more. I love them, and I really do love watching them, so anyone would be great to watch, because I'm kind of running out of stuff to watch. I've been rewatching George Lopez, and it's been great so far. Anyways, don't forget, you matter, you're loved, and if no one told you, say, I love you. Bye. Documentary. Oh, goodness. Oh, my dog's going crazy. Oh, I'm sorry. What do you think about the power of documentaries? She said she wants some chicken nuggets. Me too.